to be exciting and of course knowledgeable. A lot to learn. With me in the studio, possibly known to everybody.
It's up. The arm is there. Can he make it 1-0 to Rome?
Former CAV and FIFA instructor, former Super Eagles coach, achiever.
In the derby della Capitale.
He has seen it all in the game. I will introduce him, just come down. I am Raymond Tullock with the Sports Illuminator. Welcome on board. And of course, if you are live on social media, you can listen to us or watch us live on Facebook. Pensioners FM 106.7. Pensioners FM 106.7. Or you can listen to us live. www.pensioners106.7fm.com. www.pensioners1067fm.com. And you'll be live. With me, Chief Adegboye Onigbinde. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine. You're welcome on board, sir.
Thank you.
And it's a pleasure to have you in the studio this afternoon.
I appreciate that.
Sir.
Alexander Arnold. Big Pope's got a one-shot. It's over him and it's in. Trent Alexander-Arnold puts Liverpool in front.
Let me begin on a brighter note. I wanted to call the name Festus before. That was what before I decided to draw back a little and not call the name.
I can go to court for that.
I wanted to start on a lighter note. But I want our people to know why that name, Festus, was off your name.
Well, I'm a traditionalist. I believe in our culture and tradition. Apparently, that name was given to me when I was very young. The day I was baptized in the church, Festus. But growing up, I was curious to know what Festus actually meant. Because I have a feeling and I believe that Yorubas don't just give a name
without knowing the meaning.
When a child is born, there are certain factors that lead to the name that they... It may be family profession. It may be family religion. It may be the occurrence at that time, at the time the child was born. Or it may be a sort of vision the parents have for the child. Like in my own case now, I was named Adegboye. Adegboye, somebody who has arrived to retrieve the chieftaincy. I didn't know much about this until later in my life when the palace requested the family to come up with somebody who will become a chief. The family, we were on it for about 6 months or more. Eventually, the family decided that it was going to be me. And within that period, I was away in Brazil for 6 months. And I thought that by the time I came back, the decision would have been taken. But it was not taken. The first meeting I will attend after coming back from Brazil in 1981, I discovered that the meeting was extraordinarily large. Everybody was around. And then they came out, they said, well, today we are deciding who's going to be our
chief,
our Magaji. So then I asked them, because I was mandated to write to all members of the family abroad to signify their intention if they wanted the chieftaincy. So I asked them, have you received the responses? They said, yes, we had. Then who is the... Then
they said you see.
They said it was me. Now the relevant aspect of this was this. When my mother heard this, she became afraid. Then she came in front of the family elders, knelt down and was appealing to them that I was too young for that position. They should look for somebody else. Then they shut her off. Family discipline those days.
Oh, that was just...
Where were you when this child was born? Said, she was around. When we were giving him names, where were you? She said she was around. Were you there when we named him Adegboye? She said yes. Now, the child is old enough to bring the chieftaincy now to Baoye.
Vasily.
Now you are complaining.
No,
So
I get.
it was that implication. Then I went into the Bible. I knew there was one Festus in the Bible who was a governor. Would that make me a governor? And what was the real meaning of the word Festus? And that is why up to today, none of my children has a foreign name.
It's all local name or indigenous name.
Indigenous name.
Wow.
Is racking them up.
That was on a lighter note. I'll go straight to business. The world needs to know who Adegboye Onigbinde is. A little bit of an introduction, sir.
Yes, Adegboye Onigbinde was born some few years ago, precisely on the 5th of March, 1938. Within the next 1 week, he will be 82 years old.
Wow, happy birthday in advance.
So we thank God for that. And I was born into a traditional family. We had the family religion and all the rest of it. And there was also something that became a family occupation, that is talking drumming. Because an uncle of mine went out to learn how to play the talking drum before I was born. Maybe before my mother was born. He went out and learned the art of talking drumming, and it eventually became family venture. And I grew into that, going out at drumming. And on my mother's side, my maternal grandfather was a blacksmith. And my mother was his firstborn. I was the firstborn of my mother. So virtually the old man saw me as his first male child. And was treating me. And that was one of the reasons why it was a little bit late before I started primary school. I didn't start until I was 10.
10 years of age.
Because I was oscillating between the two families.
So how did you journey into sports?
Yes. Why in the primary school? It was an irony. Why in the primary school, I was taking part in sports.
General.
But mostly during the break time. Because immediately after school, I had to go out at drumming or go to the farm.
Okay.
So school teams were selected during the midday break football matches, interclass football matches. And I used to be selected, but I would not come for the school team training
practice,
because it was odd time for me. I had to go at drumming or go to the farm. So until I left primary school, I didn't play for the school team. Then when I went for my teacher's grade 3 course at St. Peter's College, Illuminator, we were the pioneering students. We were only 29. We had to raise sport teams, football team, and so on and so forth. So that gave me the opportunity. The distraction was over. No more talking drumming. No more going to the farm. So I was able to concentrate. And in fact, I was given several sports awards during that course. That was 1956-57 at Illuminator. So that was how I got fully into sports. All sports. And after leaving the teacher training college, I went to teach. I went back to Modakeke. I didn't tell you that about where I was born. I was born in Modakeke. Yagon Modilola compound. So I went back because I was sponsored by the Anglican Mission for that teacher's grade 3 course. So I had to come back to them to serve them. So I came back to serve as a school teacher, 1958-59. And in those days, after 2 years, you could go for grade 2 course.
Okay.
So after 2 years, I was admitted at St. Luke's College, Malete.
You are still on the sports all this within that period?
Yep.
During your movement?
When I was teaching in Modakeke, I was the games master, and I was organizing local club for Modakeke. So I kept on, playing.
You are known to be a football coach, CAF instructor. Did you play the game as a professional?
not as a professional because there was no professionalism in Nigeria then.
Okay, let me say as how do I put it now? More than
I played in those days. We used to have divisional football teams, like the Ife divisional team.
Okay.
Where I played in 1958 and 59. Then at the end of my teacher's grade 2 course, I was in Elisha. I was a player coach to the Ijesha divisional football team. That was in 1962. Then 63, I went for my teacher's grade 1 course at Rural Education College, Akure. And I was also an administrator, a football player. Lest I forget, in 1958 in Ile-Ife, I became a referee. I joined the Referees Association. I became a referee. So for a long time, I was a player. I was a referee. I was a coach. I was an administrator.
How easy was that, handling all those positions?
Well, not very easy, but when you are doing something you are deeply interested in, it becomes easy, and you enjoy doing it. So it was not a big problem for me. For instance, as I said, after my teacher's grade 2 course at St. Luke's College, Ibadan here, I was posted to a modern school in Lesha. Suddenly, I saw a letter from the Ijesha divisional team that they had their annual meeting and they had elected me as the player coach in the Ijesha divisional team.
Wow. The divisional team you're talking about, I want to relate it to Nigerian Professional Football League. Was it that there was no Professional Football League then?
No, nothing like it.
It was just divisional.
The only competition that was there then was the Challenge Cup. It started as Governor's Cup, Governor General's Cup. Then later it became
Challenge Cup.
Challenge Cup.
So that was how it grew. So the divisional team was just, let's say, per region.
There were even no clubs in most part of the country. What you had was a divisional team, a whole division. Like I was talking about the Ijesha division, we had one team, a selected team. We had one in Ife when I was in Ife. It was only in places like Ibadan that we had clubs. Ibadan, Lagos, and probably some other places that we had clubs. And if I may say this, even in the Challenge Cup series, it was the divisional teams that were competing, in addition to those places where there were clubs. So, and that was why you had the Ibadan Lions.
Okay, yeah.
It's a selected team. Ibadan Lions.
C'est Sport Drill on Pension as well, 6.7 FM. Beginning one step after the other. So when joining into coaching, your first team you coached?
In the first instance, how did I become a coach? I think I want to start from there. You know, because a lot of people are confused because there was no professionalism at the time I was playing. And at that time, I was married to my profession, teaching. I remember in 1958, we had an outstanding Nigerian player, Teslim Balogun. Thunder. Fantastic footballer. Fit in all aspects of football fitness. In 1957, the politicians went to England to discuss Nigeria's independence and all the rest of it. Then it was late Chief Obafemi Awolowo who brought Thunder Balogun back in that year, 1957.
1957.
Yes. He brought him back and he was employed as a coach of the Western Region Sports Council at the Liberty Stadium. So when he came in 1958, he was going around to look for talents. He came to Ife and saw me. And then he was discussing with me on how I would come to Ibadan to play football in Ibadan. But I told him I was a grade 3 teacher, earning a fantastic salary of £10 a month. And if I came to Ibadan to play football, it was only after winning a cup or something that you give me 2 shillings and 6 pence. That would not be okay for me. So I refused to come to play in Ibadan. But he kept a tab on me. He would invite me to Ibadan for any important football match. We would sit down and discuss the match and so on and so forth. And fortunately for me, or coincidentally, as I said, I did my teacher's grade 2 course at St. Luke's College, Ibadan. In 1960, my first year in the college, I was the school goalkeeper because I had some seniors. The goalkeeper was my senior. And we were, just practicing one evening. Somebody took a shot, I caught it. Then my senior said, this man is better than our man. So they got me. Before then, I was playing in right half-back position, what we used to call right half-back, which looks like the modern-day midfield. So I became the goalkeeper, and I did wonderfully well in 1960. In 1961, I became a senior. And so I became the captain of the team. Not only the captain, I was also coaching the school team. Because
so your coaching started from the school team?
Started from the school team there. And because we had a games master, a very nice gentleman, but who knew virtually nothing about sport. So I was playing, I was coaching the team. Coincidentally, it was that year a junior minister in the Western region donated a cup for teacher training colleges. Oye Cup. That was the name of the junior minister. In those days, we didn't have commissioners in the states, we had ministers. So he was a junior minister. He donated a cup for competition among teacher training colleges in the old Western region. And I was coaching the team, and I was inviting Balogun. Because we had become very familiar, very close. Up to today, I'm close with his family. So I was inviting him to assist me in the preparation of the team for that competition. Some of the time, if he didn't have the time, he would send his immediate assistant, late Ayo Adeniji. So I was really deep into Western region football while I was a student there. Okay. I guess that it was because of me that Thunder Balogun organized the first organized coaching course in Nigeria at the Liberty. It was July, August 1961.
The first organized coaching course in Nigeria. Liberty Stadium. July 1st, 1961.
I was one of the over 20 people who attended, and I was one of the 12 who obtained the certificate. Because there was an examination, practical and theory, and I was one of the 12 who obtained the certificate. And that was how I became a certified football coach. That was in 1961. And as I said earlier on, at the end of my course at St. Luke's, I was posted in Elisha at a modern school. And then the Jesha people got to know, probably the information got to them from Ibadan. They got to know I was around, and I was elected as a player coach of the divisional team.
That was the journey into coaching.
Yeah.
We have to move very fast because of our time. Before I go into how you became CAF and FIFA instructor, I want to, apart from Ijesha divisional team, I want to know other teams you are able to handle.
That I played for and handled.
As a coach?
After leaving Elisha, I went to Akure, as I said. I played in Akure. On the completion of my course in Akure, I came back to Elisha, and I was still playing there. From Elisha, I moved to Ogbomoso. I was teaching at the junior high school then, which is now their high school. From Ogbomoso, I moved on to Ilorin. I was employed by a teacher training college, Mount Carmel Teacher Training College in Ilorin. And with all modesty, whatever sport becomes in Kwara State today, that was when we started it. Because it was in this 1967 that the federal government created 6 states in the north, 6 states in the south. Kwara was one of the states in the south, but in the north. But funnily, the 6 states in the north she had an organization they called Common Interim Services Agency. There were certain things they were still doing together, and sports was one of them. But when I got to Ilorin, I insisted that since Kwara State had been created, we should have our own sports council.
Sport Council.
There was an agitation, there was some confusion, but eventually we were able to do it. And we established the first interim sports council for Kwara State under the chairmanship of one G.B. Ladipo, who was the principal of the technical college in Ilorin there. And when we established that sports council, I was in several sports. I was in boxing, I was in track and field, athletics, I was in volleyball, and tennis, and so on and so forth. And that was how, because it was a sort of an ad hoc arrangement. We didn't have the personnel, so I had to dabble into a series of sports there.
Sport back then, during your days, in comparison to sport now, how will you rate it? How will you compare both?
Well, you are about moving me to tears because of the situation these days. It's unfortunate because it doesn't appear we take sports as a serious matter anymore in this country.
Sorry, sir, before we move forward,
Yeah.
I want a little bit, before we go deeply into it,
Yeah.
what is sport itself? How does it affect the society? I think that is where I want to begin.
Well, it affects individuals first before it spreads into the society. If a pregnant man or a woman, a pregnant woman goes to the hospital for maternity examination or whatever, and the doctor does not assure her that the baby is kicking, then there is problem. What is the baby kicking in the womb? The baby has started exercises, stretching arms and legs and so on and so forth. So what I want to say is that sports is a natural tendency in human beings. It is natural. And as soon as the baby comes out of the uterus, you see the baby kicking legs, arms, and even crying, exercising the larynx and the all organs of the body. So that shows you that sport is a natural thing for any human being. But unfortunately, because of our lack of understanding, in most cases, we kill this tendency in our children. And that is one of the things that is affecting our sports. We are not all supposed to be, in those days, when a young child is growing up, the father says, he will become a lawyer. He will become a reverend gentleman, and so on and so forth, without finding out what the child is built for. And so, I've just given an example now of myself. So, when I was in school, I was not a dropout. I was one of the bright ones in my classes. But this is my field. This is my natural field. And I went into it. So, and that was why I said the position of sports in the community is is very, very, very big. Let me give an example. I've told some people, if 10% of our politicians were sportsmen, we won't have all the killings and maimings and all the rubbish we are having in our politics today.
That is one of those things.
Because in sports, we have opponents, we don't have enemies.
We have opponents.
We have opponents,
we don't
have enemies. In the days of Shooting Stars and Rangers, Shegun Adegboye and Chukwu may be kicking each other during a match. 5 minutes after the final whistle, you find them in sharing drinks somewhere. We have opponents, not enemies. And I wish we could engender this into our people.
Is it the people that doesn't understand, or the administrative aspect that doesn't understand?
Well, I hope I'm not going to step on toes here.
Go ahead, sir.
The major problem with sports development in Nigeria is administration.
Shed more light into it.
Cast your mind back. When last did we have a minister of sport with strong sporting background? And that comes down to the state, to local government. Some years back, we used to have a local government councillor specifically for sports, but that is no more.
Come again. I'm just hearing that for the first time.
Yes, in local government, local councils, we used to have a special councillor for sports.
Special councillor for sports.
Councillor for sports. But we no longer have that.
Who's cohabit?
The politicians.
Is it when?
Because we no longer we I wish I could expand fully on the importance of sport. I'll just give you one example.
Go ahead.
Now, if we encourage sports in our schools, you will discover that a lot of juvenile pranks, people roaming the street, throwing stones, breaking cars and so on, will be reduced. If a boy leaves school at 2 o'clock and he has to come for volleyball training at 4 o'clock, by the time he gets home, his mother will have to beg him to take his lunch. His mind will be on that volleyball
court.
Okay. And by the time he comes back at 7 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock, the next thing he wants to do is to sleep.
To sleep, definitely.
Because he's already tired. So where will you find the children on the street throwing stones, killing people?
Nowhere.
Stealing?
Nowhere.
And imagine this now. I put up a paper in football in particular, but in all sports. I was looking forward to a situation where every local government will have a football team.
Anybody?
All over the country.
All over the country.
And how many local governments do we have in Nigeria? 774.
Okay.
If each
local
government has
a football
of 30 players, 30 times 774. You see how the number of boys you have taken off the street.
Off the streets.
You also have girls and so on. And you also have categories, age groups. 12, under 12, under this and that. So you will have taken off the street a lot of these boys roaming the street, playing pranks and all the rest of it.
Is it just down to the government alone?
Well, the government has to initiate it. The government has to come with a program, which I believe, in the past we used to have private football clubs.
Yes.
All over the place. Boys and girls clubs and so on. When we had strong social development ministries in the regions and states there used to be competitions for all these categories, but where are they anymore? I was talking about government setting up a project or a program. In those days, when we were doing our teachers grade 3, grade 2, physical and health education was a compulsory subject. If you scored A in all other subjects and you failed in physical and health education,
you're not going.
No certificate. You have to retake it the following year before you can have your teacher's certificate. And what was the content of this subject? They would take us into the details, the techniques and tactics of all these sports. So that by the time you left the college, you went into a primary school. And I remember in those days, in primary schools, we used to have physical and health education, physical, practical. At least 3 times a week, every class.
It was still on. I don't know if it's up now. I think when I was in primary school as well, we had such.
But we no longer. Now, even if we have them now, the teachers' training colleges have been abolished. Who will teach them? Who will teach these boys and girls? The alternative is for the government to come out with a program, a developmental program for sports, and which will go a long way. I was talking about, reducing criminalities and
out on the streets
and so on and so forth. So, people say an idle mind is the devil's workshop.
Definitely.
Okay. Look at the example I gave. A boy left classroom at 2 o'clock, going for
volleyball training.
Okay.
Get home, definitely is going to sleep, prepare for tomorrow.
Okay. And not only that, the International Olympic Committee approved of more than 40 sports. Let Nigeria adopt 20 of these 40 and make each local government to have a team in each of the 40. You remember we were talking about 30 for football, 30 times 20
So, yeah.
In a row, it's Serbia who come
It's been a long time.
just in trouble.
You can be part of the show. Do you have one or two questions? 0908 111 1067 0908 111 1067 or 0808 010 1067 or 0808 010 1067 or send your questions on WhatsApp 0902 672 1042.
He can. Emphatically.
Still on Sport Drill on Pensioners 106.7 FM.
Can he equalise here on the turn? Pulls it back. In. Luis Alberto.
Let's go straight to the. Let me pick it from. I want to ask two questions, but I have to make it short now. The Oyo State Sport Council.
Yes,
I believe you are at a point part of that team.
yes.
How was it then? What were they doing right that made sports a bit up there?
At that time.
What are they not doing now that makes Oyo State Sports?
Generally in this country, whether at national level or state level, we don't have a developmental program. I joined the Western Region Sports Council in 1974 as a coach. And by the time I retired in 1988, we had 14 football coaches. 14 football coaches.
Let me pick this call first before we continue. Hello, good afternoon. Oh, the network, you can call back 0908 111 1067 or 0808 010 1067. Let's continue, sir.
14 football coaches who were spread all over the region then. Somebody in Shaki, somebody in Ogbomosho, somebody in Elisha, and so on and so forth, Kure and so on and so forth. That was how we were running. For developmental programs. I remember in 1981 when I was in Oyo, I was posted in Oyo, I went for German A license course in 19...
Nicola is back.
Yeah.
Hello, good afternoon. Hello? Hello? Wow, network doing this own thing. Just keep trying. So, let's continue, sir.
In 1976, I was sent to Germany for German A license by the Sports Council, Western Region Sports Council. When I came back, I was posted in Oyo zonal office. And I was running 3 coaching courses every day, before school time, at break time, and then in the evenings.
All sponsored by the State Council?
I was an employee of the Sports Council. We had an office in Oyo. And all this, I was being paid my salaries and allowances by the Sports Council. But now we don't have these programs anymore.
I'm coming in. Yeah. Hello, good afternoon. Hello? Hello, good afternoon.
I want to speak to your guest over there, Chief Onigbinde.
Your name, where are you calling from, sir?
I am Chief Muile Ojo. My chief, good afternoon,
Good
sir.
afternoon, my brother. We were together at the Sports Council.
And that we have so many similarities, born in the same year, almost given this to the same year, achieving most of our international and continental connections together.
No wonder the understanding between us.
With Steve Oyelake,
That's right.
Emo.
Mm-hmm.
The question I want to say is that you have been an achiever.
We thank God.
And I was just saying that many people did not know your football career. And today's exercise told them that you are one of the founding fathers of football.
We thank God.
I remember you said in 1961 we attended, because I attended in the platform of Ojabo Boys and Girls Clubs.
That's right.
I want you to enlighten us the more on your achievements at the Sports Council level, at various levels of the Green Eagles and other things, because people should know what you have worked you have done. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank
you
you.
so
Thank you very
much.
much. Well, with all modesty, I think I've gone through a lot of things.
Definitely.
As I said, I joined the Sports Council in 1974. And then after even before my course, I was a coach to Water Corporation, one of the strong teams in the old Western region, the closest rival to Shooting Stars. And I also handled several clubs in Ibadan then, Clean, Railway, Inkri, and all the rest of them. And that was how it went on until sometime when Nigeria, in 1982, the Nigerian national team broke down. There was a sort of confusion between the players and the administrators after a competition in Libya.
Okay.
So all the outstanding players decided to abandon the team. The Adegboye means the Messi Emekas and all the rest of them. And so the team was virtually non-existent. It was at that time Nigerian government now decided to go into an experiment to see if a Nigerian could handle the national
team.
So the position was advertised. Over 60 of us applied, 7 of us were interviewed, and I emerged. At the end of the interview, I got to know that I was on aggregate of 84%. The nearest person to me was on 65. That was how I became the first Nigerian
to handle the national team.
The Green Eagles then.
1992.
And starting virtually from the scratch. Because as I said, all the old players had abandoned the team. So I had to go virtually on the street picking the players. And that was what gave late Stephen Keshi, the opportunity of becoming the captain of the team at his tender age. Because the old ones had abandoned the team.
At the age of what was that?
He was 17 plus then.
Became the captain of the team.
Captain of the team.
National team.
I made him the captain because he had the highest experience. He had played in the under-17 competition. He was just emerging from there. And then he came into the team, and then he became the captain of the team. And that was the team I took to Cote d'Ivoire in 1984 for the African Cup of Nations. Again, I became the first African coach to take Nigeria to African Cup of Nations in 1984. We went in. By the time we left Nigeria, not many people give us a chance of the possibility of winning one match, but eventually got to the final. And we played against Cameroon. Cameroon beat us 3-1. There is a big story behind that, because it was not just an ordinary result. But I don't want to. I'm not used to giving excuses.
Okay.
But whatever it was, I was the first coach to win silver for Nigeria. The highest, playing outside Nigeria. The highest we won was the gold
in 1980.
But now playing outside, I was the first to win as much as silver for Nigeria. And so it went on and on like that. And sometime later, in 1988, there was this CAF conference in Libya again, where they were selecting people into their committees.
Okay.
When it came to technical committee, a Tunisian asked the question, where is that man who brought Nigeria to Cote d'Ivoire in 1984? They started looking for my name. That was how I got into CAF technical committee. Yeah, in technical committee in 1988. And I was working with them, conducting courses all over Africa, building developmental programs for Africa. And since then, I have conducted courses, officiated in not less than 40 countries in Africa alone. Then, about 6 years later, FIFA, no, actually it was CAF that sent my name to FIFA.
Okay.
Like saying, well, this one is too much for us, try him at
your side.
And that was how I got into FIFA. As a FIFA technical instructor in
1994.
1994.
Yeah.
That was 6 years after being with CAF.
CAF.
And after another 4 years, I was inducted into the FIFA Technical Committee. And that saw me, as I said, in the case of Africa, going all over Africa and all part of the world, conducting coaching courses and developing developmental programs for them.
I'm going to talk about your time briefly in the Super Eagles during your time. NFA turned NFF, the runnings, the administration, president Super Eagles team, and so many more.
Like what?
I was Super Eagles then, during your days. I was comparing him to Super Eagles now. Or the running of the administration.
You see, I said earlier on that I feel like shedding tears for Nigerian football now. A coach of the national team was talking about 2 months ago that we no longer have star players in Nigeria. In 1983 to 85, the first time I handled the Green Eagles, I did not invite one foreign-based player into the team. In fact, they were not there. I was picking my players from home. When I was going to the World Cup in 2002, I started at home because the national team was disbanded in Mali after the African Cup of Nations. And so I had to start virtually from the scratch. Not only that, the players who were disbanded in Mali had a meeting and said any one of them, if I did not invite all of them, any one of them I invited will not report. So I had to start picking players, and that was what brought players like Vincent Yama up. Okpabumi and all the rest of them. Yes, that was what gave them the chance. The only mistake I made was that when we before we went to the World Cup, I had barely 3 months to prepare this team for the World Cup. I was brought in March. The competition was in June. A job that was supposed to have been done in 4 years, because you had a period of 4 years between
intervals.
That was to allow you to build your team.
Yeah, definitely.
But I was brought in 3 months before the competition. And within those 3 months, I played 7 friendly matches. Won 5 of them and drew 2.
Yeah, I was practically very young then.
Okay. And the matches I won included
Ireland away from home, right there, first loss in 17 years.
Ireland on their ground, Scotland on their ground.
And many more, I think.
I won 7 matches. And if you remember, by the time I left the team, in FIFA rating, Nigeria was coming into single-digit position. 9th or something like that.
Yeah.
In FIFA rating. That was then. Because, we were going all over the place. But when it came to the World Cup proper, our first opponents were Argentina. They beat us
1 goal to nothing.
1 goal to nothing.
What is Twitter?
Which was not too bad for Nigeria. But again, it was one of those human mistakes. I brought some players who had said they would not come, but when they mounted pressure on me, I brought them into the team, and they caused that defeat. The same thing, the defeat against
England.
Against Sweden.
Or Sweden.
That was why I changed the team against England. I brought in Vincent Yama to go. Okpabumi left fullback and all the rest of it. And we played a draw against England. When last did we achieve that against England?
So looking at that, you were talking about using homegrown players.
Yes.
The homegrown players, MPFL players, are they fit enough to be in the Super Eagles?
The problem is what I said earlier on. Do we have a developmental program to develop these players? Do we have it? That is what is lacking. Right from local level to national level.
There used to be at the point in time. Yeah. That's what you said. At the point in time, there were developmental programs.
Now, you will remember that at some time in the past, we used to have junior competitions.
Yeah.
Adegboye Cup competition. Where is it anymore? Secondary school competitions. Even primary school competition. Where are all those things anymore? You see, the problem we have is this. We are getting our acts wrong.
How, sir?
Good. In FIFA statutes, Article 2, under objectives, the opening sentence, which makes it the most important objective, I'm quoting now, to improve the game of football constantly. Are we improving the game of football in this country? Where is the developmental program? We are running competitions. Competitions in sports are like examinations in schools. Why does a teacher set up an examination? He wants to know how much the pupils have known from what he has taught them. Our competitions are supposed to be used to assess level of development. We are not developing. What are we assessing?
We are not developing.
We are not developing.
What are we assessing?
What are we assessing? And at any rate, are we assessing any of the competitions we are running?
So many smash and grab competitions here and there.
Now, at FIFA level and CAF level where I operated, for the finals of their competitions, we used to have what they call technical study group. Maybe about 12 of us to assess each player, each team throughout the competition. And we will write a report. We don't have that type of thing in Nigeria. It's like a teacher going to a new class and starting with an examination. Won't that teacher need to be taken to Aro? What examination? That's what we are doing with our sports, especially football. No development, competitions. And that's why I was very mad when this coach said there are no talents in Nigeria. As I said, I have traveled all over the world, and I can assure you that I have not seen one country that is as endowed with sport talent like Nigeria.
Wow.
But one, we are not discovering them. After discovering them, we are not developing them. After developing them, we have to expose them. These are the three stages.
Discovering, developing, exposure. It's everything on government. It's everything. Multinationals, companies, and the likes. Can they come and... I mean, just like I asked. The reason I asked for the reason of what is sports is because sometimes I feel like, okay, if the government is not trying enough, other private companies, if I walk to them and tell them, okay, I have it. Let me give an example. On Thursday, or Wednesday, rather, whether Thursday or Wednesday this week, I met a tennis player, 13 years of age. I watched him play. In fact, I had to read his profile. I saw his profile, and I was looking at wonderful talent. I was speaking with the coach. What he said, I can't have to say on here. And I look at, if I bring such a guy, and I walk up to a private company and I tell them, this guy, can you just give him a sponsor and let's lift him?
Now, the private companies you are talking about will sponsor what the government has planned. You don't just come out and say, come and sponsor. Sponsor what? Where is the program? You don't have a developmental program. What are they going to sponsor? And that is why I said that the major problem with our sports is administration. And look at the coach you are talking about. I don't know who he was and what discussion you had with him. Are you sure he was a trained coach? I'm talking about developmental program.
Getting you, sir.
The developmental program starts from the trainer's
Side.
You have to train the trainers. I told you what used to happen in teacher training colleges.
Yes.
Every teacher then was a physical education teacher because it was a compulsory subject.
So how do we iron it out? How do we plan this thing? Because let me assume the government is listening now. I want to allow you that to your state. At least we are in your state. How do we plan in a way that this thing, Oyo State is called a pace setter state. How do we plan this to make sure that sports goes to that level, that we will look at it and everybody...
It is very simple, my brother.
You are listening, sir.
Now, we have 33 local governments in Oyo State. 33 local governments. Each local government should have a football team, a volleyball team, a lawn tennis team. As
you explained the other time.
You see what will happen. You are already starting a revolution. And when you have that, in any local government, if you are organizing a football competition or a table tennis competition, if it is properly organized, you will find one of those private companies you are talking about coming to sponsor. That is where sponsorship will come in. Now, let me go. Let me digress a little. By FIFA regulations, by FIFA statutes, we don't have one football club in this country.
We don't come again, sir.
By FIFA regulations, we don't have one football club in this country.
One football.
We don't have one.
At least MPFL has 20.
Now, let me explain.
Okay.
An article in FIFA statute says the governing board of any football body, must be democratically elected. When did you conduct election into shooting stars? Rangers? They are parastatals. They are not clubs. And that is one of the things killing football in this country.
Wow.
We have some government who cannot, pay the salaries of their civil servants. You now want them to put pump money into sports. Now, some time ago, in the time of late Alhaji Lamadeshina, shooting stars were in relegation for about 3 years. Then he started sending somebody to me. His deputy was connecting with me. And then he was begging me to come back to Shooting Stars. I told him I had been with Shooting Stars 6 times. I didn't want to come the 7th time. Then he started pleading. I said, okay, will you allow me to do it the way it should be done? He said, Chief, don't report anything.
Go ahead.
Full confidence. I went in. I discovered what the situation was. And I decided that the first thing would be to gain promotion back into
the Premier League.
The Premier League. But in the process, I wanted to reorganize the team as a club, not as a parastatal.
Okay.
And I called the supporters. I said, supporters, come, what do you call yourself? They say, we are supporters. I say, you are cheating yourself. They say, why? I say, you are the club. You are not the supporters. You are the club. They said, how? I said, okay, let every one of you give me 1,000 naira and I will give you directorship of the club. I incorporated the club. Now, let us imagine, as at that time, I should be able to get 1 million people calling themselves Shooting Stars supporters. 1 million times 1,000, my brother.
That's a lot.
That's 1 billion.
1 billion.
And the government gave me only 40 million to run the club in a year.
Wow. But that calculation is 1 billion.
Now compared with, and it was not going to be 1 billion because I graduated the membership. If you wanted platinum membership, 10,000. Gold membership, 5,000.
I'm looking at our time. We have to have our news bed at 1.
So what I'm saying is this: the clubs, if they are properly organized, can take care of themselves. And that money, that 1 billion, with that graduation, I could get as much as 3 billion.
More, even more. Yeah, definitely.
And I said I was going to invest the money. I gave an example of pure water or bottled water.
Did you say we have to I have to cut it short. I wish we continued this, but then time. 12:59. We have to say very big thank you for coming on board, sir. Thanks, sir. I hope next time we will call you. We always honor, sir.
By the grace of God.
Thank you so much, sir. It's been the sport breed, and I've been speaking with Chief Adegboye Onigbinde on board. But because of our time, we have to just stop from here. Maybe we might have to reorganize and they can go deeply. Our news bird is coming on board immediately after the show. And of course, the man is here. Papa Femi Obide. I remain the sports Illuminator. Keep it locked down, pushing on 6.7 FM. And up next is news.
With on it this time for Lautaro Martinez, who sets Inter on their way.
From the rising to the setting of the sun, here is the first labor radio in Africa.